In. They say that just one bite of a treat will make you pass out.
It's definitely one of my favorite places.
I have to agree with you on that one.
I wonder which of you will be able to eat the most. Would you care to compete?
I don't need to, but let's see what you've got.
Should be fun.
There they go. Right where we want them.
Yep. Let our operation begin.
All right, my friends. So I gotta admit, I'm conflicted on this episode of Weakest Tamer. On one side of the coin, wow, this episode was short. Am I right? Like, this episode was short, and the intrigue that it built and like what's gonna happen with Ivy and this other tamer and her brothers, they got led to, purposefully, they got led to this other pastry, candy, treat type shop. And this is seemingly the place where the deals happen, where they lure children and stuff. And this is where their kidnapping process works. And lots of hints were dropped, especially of like, oh, I heard that if you eat so much, like you fall asleep. Basically saying like, we kind of can see and foresee kind of what's going to happen here if they're going to attempt to put them asleep. And they're going to kind of like ambush these dudes and kind of use Ivy as a catalyst to capture, to capture these kidnappers and try and get a deeper sense of their operation and stuff. So like, wow, I can't wait to see what's going to happen as we kind of move into episode number 11. Like the plan, like they've kind of put a lot of building blocks here for their plan on how to ambush him. Part is Ivy's kind of like second person inside of her head kind of putting things together with like the sleeping potions and this like anvil operation that she has going on. And the other side of it is some of the more trustworthy folks within the brigade, within the guard or whatever you call it, kind of putting their thinking caps on of how to go about capturing these folks. So that's on one side of the coin. Again, I felt like this was really, really short. I felt like we got to the end like very quickly, and I was like, oh crap, like we started where we ended, and we ended where we started. I was like, oh my gosh, here we go again. Okay, now let's flip the coin. On the opposite side of it, this was episode 10. We have 2 episodes left, and we started the episode with where we left off with which was the cliffhanger of Ivy interacting with these kidnappers and stuff, and we got left off on Ivy interacting with these kidnappers. And I really felt like this episode was building up to the same thing that we built up to last episode. And I was like, well, how are they going to give us the same cliffhanger seemingly like again? Like, how are they just going to basically give us the same thing that we ended on last week? Like, this week should have been the operation. This week should have been like the good outcome. This week should have been like, we should be able to see how they're going to capture these folks and what we're going to do here and all of that. And it just wasn't. It's a little disappointing in that sense of like, this episode, although it did some things, it didn't move the needle because again, we started where we left off and we left off where we started kind of thing once again. So although I did enjoy it inherently, I can understand the other side of the coin of people being frustrated of like, yo, they're going to do the same thing again, like for the second week in a row. And thankfully, this hasn't been a show that's been, at least, in these 10 episodes, this hasn't been a show to kind of reuse those things. Like, there's other shows out there that they've kind of reused the same, what do you call it? Like the same trope, multiple episodes in a row, right? The healer anime, I'm looking at you specifically. So this one hasn't been a proponent or a victim or a anime that's kind of done that to us. This would be the first instance of that. But I can understand by folks being like, oh, man, I really wanted to see this get moved forward, and it just didn't. And from that kind of sense, it does suck a little bit. Again, me, loved it, entertained, but I get that other side of the coin. Well, regardless, I want to hear your guys' thoughts. I don't even really need to talk anymore about this episode. You saw it. I saw it. That's my opinion on it. I love this episode. I can't wait to see what happens next. I'm ready for the juice. So I want to keep this one short, brief, and short. Short, brief, short. Yeah. Super short. I just want to hear you guys' thoughts in the comments below on this week's episode of Weakest Tamer. Because really, outside of the planning phase and ending up at another tree shop, not a lot happened this week. We're going to see the shit hit the fan next week. So can't wait to see what you guys think in the comments down below. But this week's episode, loved it. 8 out of 10. Easy peasy. All right. See you next week. Peace.